Hello! So today I'm going to be talking about The Juice by Tim Winton. This is the first Tim Winton novel I have read, but it won't be the last. In a desolate, climate-ravaged Australia, an unnamed narrator and a mute child journey through a broken landscape. Our unnamed narrator and a mute child are captured by a bowman, and the narrator, in trying to hang on and extend his life, tells the bowman the story of his life. He goes into extensive details about his harsh upbringing in a survivalist community. His mum is tough and absolute no-nonsense. Everything in her life, their lives, is about survival. Growing crops and survival. That's it. And she instills in him this work ethic and this kind of drive to survive. As an adult, and I don't know the exact age, but I think he was around his early 20s, the unnamed narrator joins the Service. The Service is a vigilante group that targets those responsible for the environmental collapse. The novel is exploring our unnamed narrator's inner conflict. He is grappling with the loyalty to his family, the moral ambiguity of what it is he is doing with the Service, but also the legacy that's been put upon him from the climate disaster. And that's it really, that's what this novel is about. I won't go into too many more details for spoilers, but we just get a very detailed account of his life growing up in this very harsh landscape and the sort of harsh reality that he is faced with, and the sort of the service stuff and the things that he has to do and the training that he gets. That adds in a little bit of a sort of like mystery with some twists and turns along the way that keeps everything kind of interesting. So what did I like and what didn't I like? What I liked, I thought that Tim Winton did an incredible job with the kind of atmosphere that he's building. This sort of like scorched, brutal world that our unnamed narrator is growing up in. I really felt it. Now, as much as I get into my cons, I wanted the world building to be so much better. I felt like what we were given atmospherically was really well done. You know, in the sense that like the sun is so hot that during the summer months, everyone has to go underground and live underground in very confined spaces together. And that sort of claustrophobia really sort of builds on them. And then when they're out in the landscape, the sort of, just the real sort of like the heat and the harshness and the dirt and the dust and everything, I just felt it. And yeah, I think Tim Winton did an excellent job with the kind of atmosphere that he built in this novel. I really like that all of the characters in this novel exist in this kind of morally grey area, with the kind of twists and turns and mystery of like the service that our unnamed narrator is working for. I felt like there's a real moral ambiguity to everything that's taking place. And I think because everyone's just out to survive, and no one really knows what's going on or why things have happened, and information, misinformation, things being fed. I think I just liked that there was no clear-cut heroes or villains in this story. Everything existed in the grey. I also really liked what this novel is saying about climate change and the human face that we can stamp on it, the people who are actively doing it. And I like how this novel, even it's fictional, it's a dystopian world that we exist in, and it gets quite far-fetched with these characters called the Sims that I won't go into too many details of spoilers, but I still felt like there was a real human quality, a very realistic sort of sense of we are heading in this direction. And I think Tim Winton sort of blurs that line between the sort of like the fantastical and the realistic and sort of naturalistic sort of way this could all play out really quite well. As reading through it, the fantastical things that sort of do happen at times really took me back, because I felt like I was so rooted in the naturalism of the novel. And I kept having to be like, no, I am reading a dystopian novel in which there's like roaming gangs and all that kind of thing. It's very close to Mad Max, the world that's set up in this novel. Although nowhere near that far as like gangs and outfits and costumes are concerned. But yeah, I've lost my thread. Climate change, that's what I was talking about. Right, yes, I felt like those aspects were dealt with really well. And finally, I really enjoyed the sort of story that's being told in this novel. It is a slow burn, and if you're not a fan of a slow burn, then, this 500 plus page dystopian novel about a guy growing up in a survivalist community in like the north of Australia it's not going to be for you. It takes its time, but I really enjoyed the sort of detail that it goes into in the kind of like the everyday life of our unnamed narrator, and the sort of like the process of building of him going into the service and slowly going through his training, and sort of how that built and the community around him and how they felt about him. Everything, it takes its time, but I actually really enjoyed the story being told, and there was enough sort of like mysteries and twists thrown in there to keep me like, oh yeah, I want to keep going because I wonder what that means, or I want to keep going because I wonder if he's going to find out what that means. That kind of thing. It's layered, everybody. It's layered, and I liked it for that. What didn't I like? So I already mentioned it briefly earlier, but the world building, I feel like there was a massive missed opportunity in here. In a 500-page plus novel, in which it is just our narrator telling a story, explaining his life, there was so much scope for him to build this world even more. Like, we get like gangs mentioned and little things mentioned, and I'm going to myself, give us more detail, please. Bring this world to life. I wanted so much more, and at times it focuses a little too much on a sort of like the minimalism of this character and what he's going through, which is probably the point, but I don't care. I wanted more. I was crying out for it, and it's over 500 pages long, so he has the space to build this world more. And there are loads of things in this novel where I was a bit like, you could easily get rid of that and add in a bit of that. You could easily get rid of that. And if I'm playing that game in my head, then yeah, the world building just definitely wasn't strong enough. My next dislike is there is not a lot of dialogue in this novel, which makes absolute sense. Of course there isn't. This is a man who's been captured and he's telling his story. I always find it weird in novels that kind of use that trope, the person telling a story to someone else, and they somehow are able to remember every single word of dialogue, everything they said and the other person said exactly. And I'm like, that's not how memory works. Do you know what I mean? So there's a part of me going, I can understand why there's minimal dialogue, because actually Tim Winton is doing something really, really smart in which he's staying true to the trope of the character telling this story. And of course that character's not going to go into absolute complex detail of the dialogue and the flow of the dialogue between certain characters. However, it does mean with the secondary characters, I was like, they are no way near fleshed out. No way near fleshed out enough for me to really care about. Like, the mum gets given some time and some things happen to the mum and I felt nothing. I felt absolutely nothing. And he, is this a spoiler? Other characters that we get with, felt nothing for any of them. Nothing at all, I felt. Because I need that dialogue. I need that moment to connect with these characters talking as human beings. That dialogue is going to allow me a sort of little window into their souls and to build up that emotional connection. But because it is all just cold, hard facts, which I don't mind, it just means, like character-wise, with a story that isn't expanding that big in the world it's building and it's concentrating on things that are quite small, why couldn't I needed more? And I understand the conundrum that Tim Winton is in with the kind of the way he's decided to tell this story. He's been really, really true to that. And actually, I give him quite a lot of props for doing that, because as I've already mentioned, I can't stand it when authors do the latter. But yeah, just the choices made left me a bit like, I don't know anything about anyone. I don't care about anyone. My final dislike definitely covers spoilers, so if you want to know nothing, then I would say you skip forward to this point. I don't think the spoilers are major in any way, but yeah, if you want to know nothing, definitely skip ahead. My final dislike is the ending. So this novel is building, the whole way through the novel, you're like, who is this mute girl that is with him? He's traveling through the middle of the night. It looks like he's running away from someone at the very beginning of the novel, and he has this sort of like this girl who doesn't speak with him. Then he gets captured, and the girl who doesn't speak is just sort of put in a corner, and he's sort of tied up and he's telling his story. And you're going, okay, so we're building towards who this girl is. This girl is going to be someone really important, like integral to the story being told. And the novel is constantly throwing all these twists and turns at you. And you're going, oh, this is building. This is getting complex. I'm enjoying this. I want to keep going. I wonder where all these kind of twists and where it's going to lead to. And everything's going to be leading up to a massive reveal with the mute girl, right? Right? No. Nothing. None of the build-up lent to any answers whatsoever. And I don't care if that's a spoiler. It was like, what? 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 There's like one twist. Like, there's all these little mini twists that leave you intrigued, all these little misdirections. And then there's this one thing that you're like, oh, okay. But what about the girl? What? Oh, she's just someone you found along the way. Okay. Pointless. Here's the thing. I know I just went, it's pointless over and over again, and it is. The ending isn't necessarily bad. It's just, I had expectations from what the novel was giving me, And I just felt a little bit like, why put those in there if you're just going to end the novel in that way? And it is not a bad ending. Let me get that across, all right? Have you got me? It's not bad. It's just, I was like, oh, okay. Overall, The Juice is an atmospheric and thought-provoking read, and one that I rather enjoyed. I think that Tim Winton is doing so many things incredibly well with this novel. The kind of sort of naturalism mixed in with these fantastical elements is leading towards a possible future that we might have in a really sort of like crystal clear way. And I like that the story takes its time, and I like the sort of story that is being told, regardless of where it ends up. It's just a couple of things taking place within this novel that really drag it down. Things that I kind of need when reading a novel that just weren't there. And for that reason, I'm landing on like a 3 to a 3.5 with this novel. I thought it was good, and in some moments, very good. So there you go, that's my review of Tim Winton's The Juice. Have you read this novel? And if so, what did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please let me know in the comments below. And as always, I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying whatever you might be reading, and I'll see you all on the next one.